All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the DH Pickleball Show. My name is Mike Behrens. I am your host, and the guy to my left or right, I'm not sure which side of the screen he's going to be on, is David Henry. And this show is where we talk about David's pickleball journey to hopefully becoming a senior pro. That's his goal. And so what David does is he shares with us his tips and tricks and things that he learns to optimize his game and really try to take his game to the next level. So tonight, we're going to talk about some more customization. He's kind of the guru for that, which we'll get into in just a second. But let me welcome David to the show. David, how you doing, man?
Hey, man. Doing very well. How are you?
I'm good, bud. I'm good. I'm excited to talk to you. It's been a little bit since you and I have had recorded one of these episodes, so I'm excited to have a conversation tonight.
Yeah. I'm glad I made it to the show. It has been a day. It's been a day. It was an incredibly busy day. At work, which I work from home. I work right from the same spot. But crazy busy day at work, but good. All is good. And then ran out the door and had a 2-hour pickleball drill session with Jeremy down at the Pickle Lodge tonight, as we've talked about in previous episodes. So just went at it hard for 2 hours and walked in the door about 8:45 p.m. and wolfed down some food, took a quick shower, and here we are. So it has been a day, but it's all been good.
I dig it. That's great, man. Nothing like burning the candle at both ends, huh?
Yeah. Well worth it for this.
That's good. What did you work on tonight at the training session?
Yeah, we always kind of work on everything, but it was really neat. He had watched a video from the top pro, Ben Johns, and Ben's brother Colin. They're the top men's doubles team. He had watched some videos about kind of their drill session, exactly what they do, like almost every single day. And so we mimicked that. So yeah, we started off doing working on drop shots from the baseline, and then some defense from kind of no man's land in the transition area, and then worked our way up to doing some stuff at the kitchen line. And then what we always do at the end, we always spend the last half an hour playing skinny singles. So half of the court. It just kind of, basically we're working on all these skills the entire time. Mm-hmm. And then skinny singles just kind of throws it all together in a competition game format at the end. And it's cool. Great. It's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Very cool. Good deal.
Yeah.
Very good. You might have to do an episode on your training session and give us a rundown on the full deal sometime.
Yeah. You had mentioned that before. It's a good idea, and I've got a whole bunch of notes.
on
my phone of future episodes. There is no shortage of content, I think, for us to discuss in future episodes. Yeah. But that's a great idea.
No, that's great. Okay. Well, speaking of content that we discuss. For those of you who have been listening to the DH Pickleball Show, or for those of you who are new, David has kind of proven to us that he is quite the expert when it comes to customizing your paddle, for optimizing the paddle in different ways that you can do it. I know that my mind has been blown on all the different ways that you can customize a paddle. And so tonight we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to talk about weighted tape. But let's do just a quick recap, David, of what we've covered so far. I mean, you're the guru. I would recap it, but I can't even do it half the justice that you can. So what have we talked about so far? And then we'll get into the topic of tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I may not be crystal clear on the episode numbers, but episode 2, I know for sure, we talked about that was entirely about customizing the grip of the paddle. So many different things that I do with the grip. So we've talked about grip customization. Then I think episode 4, we went into a deep dive on other customization aspects of the paddle. So non-grip. So things like weight, balance, swing weight. And then we introduced the concept of paddle matching. And that's where the manufacturer specs coming out of the factory, when I get a paddle here at the house, they're not always the same. Even if it's the same brand of paddle, same model of paddle, the weight, the balance point, the swing weight could all be different. And so what I do is I match my paddles to be identical. So if I'm carrying 3 paddles in my bag to a tournament, I know that all 3 of those are matched identically with weight, balance, swing weight, and now, as we talked about another issue, twist weight. And so, I love that because I just don't want to have a favorite paddle. I want them to all be the same. And when I reach into my bag to grab a paddle out, I want them to all be perfectly matched. So we talked a lot about that. And then I think episode 5 was where we went into step by step of how I match my paddles. So we broke it down a little bit more, and that was fun. That was a good episode. And then recently, and I'm going to space on the numbers, you seem like I should have the best grasp of episode numbers, but you seem to have a better grasp of the episodes numbers than I do. So I forget what episode it was that we talked about twist weight, but pretty recently we talked about twist weight, and that was just the 4th component that I wasn't measuring and I wasn't matching. But I got an adapter for my Swingweight machine, my Graffiti SW1, that then allows me to measure twist weight. So I've thrown that into the mix as well. And so, yeah, a lot of cool stuff regard to paddle customization.
Yeah, no, I think it was episode 12.
You're gonna prove that I was right, that the episode numbers better than I do.
Somebody's got to keep tabs on you, dude.
I know, man. I know. Your brain is much younger than mine. So, what do I have you? I'm 52. What I have you by about 10 years?
I'm 40, so 12 years.
12 years. Wow. Yeah. Your brain. You just have a baby. You have a baby brain compared to my old man brain.
Fair enough. But in my I will say I've probably hit in the head a lot more than you have in my 20 years as a pro wrestler. So
Good point. Good point.
Good
point. That's funny.
Oh shoot. So okay, all right. So we've definitely talked a lot about pickleball paddle customization, way more than I even thought was possible. But it is clearly possible. And so there's there's a topic that we wanted to talk about tonight that is about weighted tape. And I know we talked briefly about it before. I think it was episode 5, we talked about it and you kind of gave some examples and you held up some different ones and talked a little bit about it. So why are we talking about this tonight, and where do you want to start with weighted tape?
Yeah. I mean, want to talk about it tonight because it's just an important aspect of the customization process. I mean, when you're talking about weight, balance, swing weight, and twist weight, in order to customize and optimize and match for those, you gotta sometimes add weight to the paddle and move it around. And so you've got your tools. So like your scale, your balance board, my Graffiti SW1 swing weight machine, twist weight machine. Those are your tools to help measure. But then you've got the materials that you actually apply to the paddle to actually add the weight. And so that's why that's important, to talk about the weighted tape, because it plays an important role. And probably the best place to start is just to talk about the 3 basic types of weighted tape. And so really there is by far the most common, and most people when they're talking about adding weight to paddles, almost everybody says lead tape. Lead tape's kind of, it's just the by far most common form of weighted tape. So lead tape is a form and most popular one. And then there is also what's called tungsten tape. So just made from a different material, Tungsten, in case I didn't pronounce that correctly, but tungsten tape. And then the third type of tape, which is probably the least used, least popular, is copper tape.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that from before.
Yeah, and I've got some examples here I can show. I mean, this is we're going to talk about it a little bit more in a second, but this is lead tape, but this is a bar form. We're going to talk about bar versus reel in a second. But lead tape comes in reel most of the time, but this is a bar form. Tungsten tape is that was Technofiber, a tennis brand. That was Technofiber lead tape. Then I got some Wilson tape here, which is tungsten tape. It's kind of like a strip. I got a couple of them stuck together here, but a strip of tape. And then the copper tape that I use, it's a brand called Katana, and it's real thin copper tape.
Okay.
So,
got it. All right. So if I remember correctly, didn't you talk about the lead tape being toxic a little bit? So talk to me a little bit about why that's the most popular, if it is in fact that.
yeah. I mean, it is. Lead is toxic. So, I mean, to obviously ingest, breathe, touch, lead has been proven to be toxic. I mean, years ago, I think probably back in well before you were born, but in the I want to say in the late 70s or early 80s, I think a lot of times like paint, like wall paint, had lead in it, and I think that's been banned for years. Because again, lead is toxic. Now, with that said, how dangerous is it when I'm handling a small piece of lead? I don't know. I don't know how toxic it is or how dangerous it is, but the tungsten tape and the copper tape, those are non-toxic materials.
Sure.
So again, am I putting my life at major risk if I use lead tape? Probably not.
Right.
But my mindset, I mean, and you know me, I try to be, pretty healthy with what I eat and supplements,
Sure.
which we'll talk about, I know, in another episode, and, and just taking care of my body and things like that. It's really, my health and wellness is important to me. So, excuse me, the way I look at it is just, if there's a non-toxic version, why not use that?
Yep.
So that's what I use. So even though I've got the lead here as like some examples, I don't use it. I use I use both the tungsten tape on my paddles, and I also use the katana copper tape.
Got it. Okay. All right. What would be the differences between using the lead and the katana tape and the tungsten tape? Is there really a major difference?
There's not really any major differences. That they're all weight. I mean, it basically all comes down to grams. Okay. But that's a real good lead into the next thing. Let me look at my notes just to make sure we're talking on the exact same page here. But that's a good lead into the next place. Is like there's different forms of the tape. Okay. So I think let me see what I wrote down here was thick tape versus thin tape. Okay. So that's where the differences come in. And so the thick tape versus the thin tape. So we'll see if you can see it here. It's probably going to be way too hard to tell on the screen, but the tungsten tape's a little thicker than what would be the copper tape or a standard lead tape. It's pretty thin. But where that's really important, it comes into different situations of adding weight to the paddle in different locations on the paddle. So, for example, on my paddle, and man, excuse the ugly grip on this thing. It's got about 4 hours of play, so it's coming off after tonight.
Got it.
It is grimy, but anyway, so I have weight on this paddle. I add weight to the paddle, and again, we've talked about it in previous episodes, but I add weight to just bring up the total weight in order for my matching purposes, and then I also add weight around the tip of the top of the frame for performance reasons, to increase the swing weight and get a little bit more power, a little more mass coming through the ball on top spin shots and things of that nature. And so because I'm putting weight in different locations, that's where the thick tape versus the thin tape comes to play. So I'm loading up underneath these overgrips. I'm loading up the handle with weight. Okay. And so because of that, and I've talked before, I like to play with a 4 1/4 inch circumference around my grip. So because of that, and I've got lots of strips, almost on each bevel. I've got katana tape, the thin copper tape, because if I were to use the thicker tape under the handle, then that's going to increase the circumference of my grip.
Sure.
Okay, sure. So that's where, because initially what I was going to do is like, I'm just going to use the tungsten tape, and it'll work because I don't want to use lead. I didn't know of the copper tape at the time. And I'm like, I'm just going to use tungsten tape. Well, that's when I realized, no, it's going to add too much circumference so that's when I went out and I found the katana tape. So I have katana tape under the grip. Then I do some perimeter weighting. Before I put the specific weight at the tip, I perimeter weight around the entire edge of the paddle.
Okay.
And for that one, I mean, I just use the tungsten tape. It's thinner. That way, it just doesn't even, it looks better when I apply the white tape over here. There's not a big groove. Then what happens is when I get to the top of the paddle where I really want to add condensed weight, that's where I use the tungsten tape, because the thinness or the thickness up here doesn't matter. So I just use tungsten, because in order to get enough weight, I would have to layer a bunch of strips of the copper tape. And so that's why the tungsten works really well at the top.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense. That makes a ton of sense. So I'm just thinking the primary weight on your paddle is probably the tungsten tape for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, again, I have a lot under the handle and some perimeter weighting in order just to bring the overall weight up for the weight I like to play with. But yeah, the main performance, the most weight is probably up here at the top in the tungsten.
Got it. Okay. And then you said something earlier about lead primarily coming in rolls. Does the tungsten and the copper come in rolls, or they come in strips? How does that?
Yeah, the tungsten, to my knowledge, only comes in these black. It's almost like a rubber material.
Oh.
Yeah, they only come in these black strips. I know we'll talk about it in a second, but I only know 3 brands off the top of my head that make the tungsten, and it's this rubbery strips. Then the katana, this is the same type of tape that you would find on like a reel of lead tape.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, it just comes in this little packet. Not a reel. So,
yeah, it's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any other types of weighted tape that you could use, or is it just copper, tungsten, and lead?
As far as I know, the 3. I'm sure there's some other material out there, And what's interesting about it is, lead tape is used, or see there, I did it. It's the common weighted tape, but I said lead. Weighted tape is used. I think golfers will use it on golf clubs.
Sure. Okay.
Tennis players have used it, on tennis rackets for the longest time. Obviously, pickleball players are using it. I know my buddy Denny that I've mentioned in previous podcasts where he and I played that first tournament together. I know he does a lot of customization and balance and weighting and stuff with like softball bats because he plays competitive softball.
Okay.
I don't know what materials are used for that. And then when I was actually researching to prep for this episode, I was researching some copper tape, and it looks like copper tape might be used not for weighting purposes necessarily. I don't understand why, but guitars. So as I was Googling it, I saw something about copper tape for guitars, but who knows? No, really, those are really the 3 main materials that I'm aware of, but there could be others.
Okay. And is there a massive price difference in the different materials? I would assume so, but.
Well, not massive, but there definitely is a difference. And let me look at my notes. Lead is by far the cheapest. Okay,
yeah,
and that's probably yeah. So what I did is I took the 3 major tennis brands of lead tape that I found that are kind of popular. The 3 brands of tungsten tape, and then the 1 brand of copper tape that I found, and I took an average of those. So lead came out to about 35 cents per gram on average, and that's let me clarify, that's pre-tax, pre-shipping.
Got it. Okay.
Just so it was a level playing field, because your shipping and tax could be different than mine. So pre-tax, pre-shipping, lead comes out to 35 cents per gram. The katana copper tape comes out to 59 cents per gram. So not quite double, but getting up there. And then the tungsten comes out to $1.14 per gram.
Boom.
Yes. So tungsten is definitely the highest priced of the 3 by a decent percentage.
Totally. I mean, that's dang near double the katana, and like almost
katana's almost double. Yeah, katana's almost double lead, and then then the tungsten's almost double katana.
Huh. Well, I can see why lead is the most widely used.
Yeah. And you know what? And I was looking at the lead prices that I took into that average were like the tennis brands. I think it was Gamma, Technofiber, and Turna were the 3 brands that I looked at.
Got it.
But there's also lesser brands or non-brands of lead tape that you can just buy off of Amazon in big reels. So my guess is that if I factored those in, it would even be cheaper. It would bring down that average even more.
Interesting. Okay. So
Yeah.
Is that the best place to buy this kind of stuff? Like where can people go to get the tape?
Yeah, I mean, Amazon for sure. I think you can get anything in the world off Amazon. But yeah, they're out there. Where I normally buy mine is there's 3 big tennis online retailers. There's Tennis Warehouse, Tennis Point, and Tennis Express are 3 of the bigger ones. And I just happen to live about 30 minutes north of Tennis Point. They're northern Cincinnati. So I just order from them and it's here within a day with some pretty inexpensive shipping. But yeah, so I would say one of the big tennis retailers or Amazon is probably the best place to buy. And probably the pickleball retailers. There's some pickleball specific ones. Like we've talked about Pickleball Central and Frommuth or however you pronounce it. So they may carry it as well. And then one of the brands of Tungsten is Selkirk. So we've talked about them and their paddles and stuff. So Selkirk has their own branded version of Tungsten tape that you can order through their site as well.
Cool. Okay. So probably best place to be Amazon, and then wherever local, the place you can find it if you want to support local. Like I'm just thinking out loud, the lead tape. Is it you just buy strips of lead tape that's not specifically branded for pickleball? Is that what you were saying that you saw?
Yeah, just big reels of lead tape. Yeah. They're not branded for tennis or pickleball or anything. It's just lead tape.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. And you got to think about it. I know like the Tungsten seems so much more expensive, but you're not using massive amounts of like. If I were customizing paddles for other people and I had a bunch of people giving me the paddle, and I was burning through Tungsten tape, then sure, it that price difference may add up over time. But if I'm just doing it for my own paddles or if someone's just doing it for their own paddles, you're probably not using that much to where the price difference is anything to worry about.
Well, speaking of that was going to be my next question is how many grams, like if it's $1.14 per gram, how much are you putting on a paddle? Are you putting multiple grams, 10 grams? Or is it just, because I don't remember what you say you play with your paddle weight at, but are you having to add a crazy amount to every paddle?
I am because I purposely buy the, we talked about the Swift version of these paddles, which is a lighter version, because it's always easier to go up in weight and up in swing weight. So I buy it. Let me see if I can find my specs here. So my latest Yola Hyperion CFS Ben Johns paddle, number 5, started out naked at 211 grams.
Okay.
And then the final weight is 235 grams. So, 20 some grams, but some of that weight is in the 2 overgrips.
Right.
It's in this tape that the electrical tape that I put around the perimeter of the paddle. So not all of that is in weighted tape, but a majority of it is.
Yeah. Well, that's not, that doesn't seem unreasonable for the amount. 20 grams, it's not that big a deal to add it, to get it how you like it. That seems totally reasonable, and if it's a split between Tungsten and the Katana tape, then, that's totally doable. I get it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. So with the tape, is there anything that we are leaving out about the tape that I didn't ask you that we wanted to talk about for people to be able to start using tape in the lead tape or not lead tape or whatever kind of tape they want to use?
See, there you go. Everybody says it.
Weighted tape.
Weighted tape. But just one other thing is just the I guess the the thicker, it's kind of related to the thicker versus the thinness, but it's kind of like the bar or the strip versus these long reel type.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it's really from a concentration. So because I want a decent amount of weight up here at the top, that's why I like those tungsten strips, because it's kind of condensed. You know, so I'm not spreading it all the way around the paddle. I want a real specific condensed area of weight, and that's where I kind of like these strips. And if I were to use lead, these bars, which you know, because you can really get a lot more weight in a smaller area. Sure. If you really want to get specific with it. Otherwise, what you have to do if you're using like the thin katana or the thin lead, I may have to cut a strip, you know, this size, but then layer on another one on top of it. Then layer on another one on top of it. If I want that weight, you know, condensed in a very small, specific area of the paddle. So that's the only other thing.
Is there any reason that would become a negative? So like if you were to add the swing weight and you wanted to put some weight on the end, is there any reason that layering 4 or 5 pieces of weighted tape there, 4 or 5 pieces of the tungsten, that would become an issue? Or like, because I guess like when you talk about it, the tungsten's a little bit thicker than the copper, so on the end you would layer copper, but is there any reason to avoid that?
Not really. It's just a lot more. It's just a lot more convenient.
Got it. Okay.
Rather than, well, you know, I mean, I may have to cut 5, 6 strips of that to get, you know, what I could get in one strip of here, you know, for the weight. So no, there's really no benefit or detriment. It's just other than convenience.
Yeah. Well, what about for aesthetics? Like, you know, because obviously you want to have your paddle look good too. Does it get lumpy on the end of it if you don't, if you have to pad too much on there?
Probably not, because basically you're basically still going to arrive at the same thickness, probably, you know, because it's thicker to begin with. So, you know, I could probably layer 3 or 4 of these and still be about the same thickness of this. So no, probably not. Yeah. Right. It just boils down to, like I said, it's just really convenient to slap a strip of tungsten in a small space and then you're done without having to just put multiple layers on.
Gotcha. For the listeners, you'll have to forgive my naiveness to the pickleball paddle world.
Oh, dude,
that's why I'm asking the questions, though.
I think your questions are great. I think you listen extremely well, and then you probe with great questions. That's why I begged you for several months to be the co-host of this with me before you finally agreed to do it.
That's why we're here, man. That's why we're here. Okay. All right. So from a weighted tape perspective, I think we've touched on pretty much everything that we wanted to touch on tonight. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover in this episode before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I do want to circle back to one thing and then talk about another thing. So,
okay.
Excuse me. So, I think you said 12. I might think it might be 11, but
maybe
we'll see.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll see. You're darn close. But in the episode on Twistweight, if you remember, I measured the twist weight on my 2 newest Yolas. Measured twist weight this way, and did them fully loaded, not naked, and they came out to what we said was 6 and 7. Mm-hmm. So, for example, on swing weight, my swing weight right now that I'm playing with is about 126, 127, and we just talk about swing weight in whole numbers. So 126, not 126 dot anything. Sure. And so I said, well, the twist weight was a 6 and a 7. And I said, I'm going to consider those matched. You know, I'm going to consider that 6 and 7 is pretty darn close. But you asked a very good probing question saying, well, is 6 and 7 really that close? Because it depends on what the scale is, you know?
Sure.
If the scale was 10 or if the scale was 100, 6 and 7, bless you, 6 or 7, they may be almost identical, but they may not be. And so I mentioned in that episode that I was going to get with Brian Fitzpatrick, the guy who makes the Graffiti Swingweight machine. And so I asked him, I said, hey, 6 and 7 the same? And he said no. He said with Twistweight, you pretty much need to go to 1 decimal point.
Oh, okay.
And he kind of jabbed me kindly, saying, as you would have seen in the video that I did,
oh snap,
I went to 2 decimal points, is what he said. So, that was
caught you there.
that was fair. And so yeah. So I mean, I think I had just gotten that twist weight attachment pretty recently before we did the episode, and so I was scrambling through, and so basically I was doing a little bit of the measurement wrong as well. So anyway, so I took the time, I watched the video, I got it down, and so then I did twist weight on my 2 newest Yolas today, and they came out to, one was 6.30.
Okay.
And the other was 6.36. So if you take them to 1 decimal point, they're both 6.3. So identical. And then if you take it to a 2nd decimal point, they're slightly off. But yeah, I'm going to consider those matched. So I wanted to circle back and tie up that loose end that we had talked about, because that was a great question by you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good to know, because that makes a big difference if you're going in decimals.
Yes.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
So 6 and 7 are not matched.
Correct. But yeah, but the paddles themselves were matched. My measurements of 6 and 7 were bad. I messed one thing up in the process. But so the paddles were matched from the beginning. I haven't done anything to them, but now that I know the full process of exactly how to measure twist weight, and knowing that I should go to at least 1 decimal point, I've proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're matched.
Got it. What did you mess up on before, when you were measuring them before?
They're just in the app. There's just different measurement groups, and so you've got to do a measurement group with the paddle in the machine. Then he wants you to do a measurement group without the paddle in the machine, and then you subtract the difference. And I think I was lumping them all into 1 measurement group, so it just just operator error on my part of just rushing through it.
Yeah, sure. Plus and I remember when we recorded that episode, you had just gotten it. I think you had it maybe a week at most. So
yeah. So that was good. So I want to talk about that. And then the other thing that I want to talk about related to paddle customization, we're actually, believe it or not, we're actually getting some people that are watching the show.
That's awesome. That's great.
On YouTube. And so now we're starting to get comments and questions. And so, I love it. I absolutely love it. And so I got one the other day from, I'm probably going to botch the name, but at Gary Preisendorfer 3668 on YouTube. And so he wrote a comment and said, do I add weight to the grip to lower the swing weight? And I thought that was a great question. Mm-hmm. And so I figured, it'd be a good thing to address. I mean, I answered him back in the comments so people could read it there, but I don't know what episode that was on. But anyway, I figured it'd be a good point to talk about tonight of what I told him. And so basically what I told him is adding weight to the grip will not lower the swing weight. Anytime you add weight to the paddle, anywhere on the paddle, swing weight's going up. Anytime you add weight to the paddle. But if you add weight to the very end of the handle, your swing weight will probably barely go up. If you add weight to the tip of the paddle, your swing weight will go up significantly. So that matters, but adding weight to the paddle always, even if it's a 0.001 unit of swing weight, is weight anywhere on the paddle is adding to the swing weight. So the answer is no, that adding weight to the grip would not lower his swing weight. In fact, it would raise it barely. But what it will do, that I told him, what it will do is it will change the balance point. So, you know, if you're adding weight here, your balance point's definitely going to shift, you know, but,
Yeah.
but swing weight will not lower. So just one point I wanted to bring up. I thought it was a great question on his part, and I'm sure other people are probably thinking the same thing. So just wanted to address it here.
Yeah. So question on that.
Yeah.
If I wanted to lower my swing weight, what would I have to do?
Well, so yeah, you really, and that's I told him this too. It's a great follow-up question. There's not much you can do other than materially altering your paddle. So if you want to drill some holes in it, which I wouldn't recommend for any reason,
Sure.
you could lower the swing weight. Or if you wanted to take off your edge, go, you know, there are things you could do, but it would involve materially altering your paddle and probably make it not playable and make it non-compliant. And so you really can't. So, but that's the reason, Mike, that's a great point. That's one of the reasons why I started playing with the Swift version of this paddle. Okay. Because the normal version, sometimes out of the box, the normal version was arriving at a higher swing weight than I wanted. Once I lowered my swing weight, you know, because of arm problems and things like that, and got my swing weight dialed in about 125, and now it's about 126, 127, I would get a paddle out of the box that could have a swing weight of 128, 129. Well, then I'm screwed. There's nothing I can do to lower it. So that's why I started buying the Swift version, which is overall static weight much lighter, which is going to mean that the swing weight is lower. So then I can always build up. So that's to the point we talked about earlier, why I have a lot of weight under the handle, why I have perimeter weighting, and then I have my strategic weighting at the top. It's because that very reason is because you can't go down in swing weight. You can always go up. So that's why I buy the lighter version of the paddle. Then I take it up to the swing weight that I need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I was gonna say, so would you, for a newer person into the customization world, right? Like you're getting into the pickleball paddle customization, you're new to it, you've never really done it before. Would you recommend, I think you already answered it, but I'm going to ask it, would you recommend specifically purchasing a lighter paddle so you have more room to play with it and figure out what works for you, and you can go up higher and do more and add more and whatever, not have to worry about it? You don't have as much play, if that makes sense, what I'm asking.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, that certainly makes sense. I mean, again, I think the first and foremost, buy a paddle that where the weight suits your style of play and your strength level and your size and things like that. But where it does come into play is, again, let's say that I settled in on the Yola original version. It comes into play in paddle matching, because like I said, I could have two paddles that I got dialed in at a swing weight of 127, and then it's time for me to get a third one because these are wearing out, and that third one could come in at 128.
Got it.
Then you're screwed. Not all paddles. I was very fortunate that Yola had a Swift version, which was a lighter version. Otherwise, I don't know what I necessarily would have done.
Got it. So in prior episode, we talked about how some manufacturers were going to be putting some of the weights and stuff on it moving forward. So just to get into the weeds a little bit, if you're going to get into pickleball paddle customization and your weight, you've got your measurement and you're going to the paddle matching route and you want to have some matching paddles, if the weight out of the box is really close to where you're at, would you recommend trying to find a lower weighted one so you have room to customize it to fit the other customizations that you're going to do?
Yeah. I mean, if you can, if you can. I mean, you know, I think, don't quote me on this because it's been a year and a half or longer, or 2 years since 2 years or more since I bought those first Selkirk paddles that I ended up, you know, putting on eBay because I didn't like pickleball at the time. But I think with those, I think Selkirk allows you to choose some weight ranges with your paddles. Okay. So I think they're probably doing some customization at their factory or their offices before they ship it. So you can do that. So yeah, that's one way too. Otherwise, I mean, I guess what you could do is back to this example of if I'm looking at 127 swing weight on this.
Yeah.
And I ordered one of the original versions and it came in at 128. I guess I could put the original factory grip back on it and send it back and order another one and hope that it comes lower, things like that. But I guess where it could really get, and we talked about this in a previous episode, where my last two Yola Swifts, Hyperion Swifts that I bought, the out of the box specs were like perfect.
Oh yeah.
Identical. Yeah. So, if manufacturers start to get a lot better, which maybe Yola's doing that. Again, we talked, we don't know if it was blind luck or if it's just, they're getting much better and getting those dialed in. But if that's the case, then you don't have as much to worry about because, that you're going to get, you're going to get match paddles almost right from the manufacturer, and you don't have to do a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. But I don't think it's ever going to get there, but we'll see.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, that's cool. So thanks for humoring me with those questions, because it was just on my mind. So, all right. Yeah, so, absolutely. That was a great question, a great comment on the episode. So for those of you listening, if you have more questions, please comment below. We'd love to answer them. I know David would love to answer questions. I think he geeks out on stuff like this. So please comment below. I mean, that's kind of why we're doing the whole podcast, right?
Yeah, for sure. I really do. I mean, I'm super responsive. I always want to answer every question, every comment, I'll always do my best to give a solid answer to anybody who asks a question.
I promise that I won't answer them.
Hey, with all the co-hosting that you're doing, you're learning along the way. So you're probably your knowledge level of paddle customization just keeps rising.
I think I would say that it's safe to say that I probably know more than most people about pickleball paddle customization, just purely from listening to you.
So. I would say that you do.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, anything else that you want to discuss on this episode before we wrap it up?
No, I think we're good, man. I really appreciate the co-hosting and the questions.
Cool. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks everybody for tuning in to this week's episode. Appreciate you as always. Leave a comment below if you have questions on any of the customization stuff or questions for David. We would love to answer them. We just talked about it. Follow the show, subscribe to the show. The subscriber count is going up. We're getting some traction on the YouTube channel. So that's awesome. It's exciting. So we can continue to put out episodes like this. If you want to keep up with David in between episodes, at DH Pickleball on Instagram. He posts over there, and you can just, you can ask him questions over there too. So with that said, appreciate everybody tuning in to this week's episode. For myself, for Mr. David Henry, thank you, and we will see you in the next episode.